Welcome everyone to the Db2 stream. And today, right now, I'm pleased to announce Tom Crocker, who happens to be Senior Solutions Advisor at Rocket, and he's going to give us a lowdown on Db2 application recovery, tips, tricks, and best practice. Please put your questions in the chat window. What I'll do is I'll allow people to unmute if they want to ask questions as well. But generally, if we can put questions in the chat window, then I'll make sure that Tom can see them and answer them. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Tom. Thank you very much.
Okay, cheers. Thank you, Colin. Welcome, everyone. This was supposed to be a dual chat with Bob and myself. Bob's unfortunately unable to make it, and I've been unavailable, so I'll try and cover his bits, which are all the flash copy bits, as good as possible. But bear with me on that. Sorry, no photograph. I couldn't find a good photograph of Bob and I cutting up over a beer or something. So well, let's get on with the session. So this is we're going to be looking at best practices for recoveries, backups, etc. We'll have a look at the different types of recoveries that you can do, and any hints and tips around there. And then we'll start looking into if we have time, flash copy, etc. And how to do that. I have uploaded the slides. Unfortunately, it was only about 2 hours ago that I got time to upload them, so that they are there for you. If we don't get to cover everything, there's about 60 slides, which I always put too many in there. Feel free to drop me an email to ask. So let's start having a look at the best practices and considerations. Okay, so what have you got to consider? So obviously the first thing you've got to start considering is what sort of media are you going to put in there? What have you got available to you? So that's going to be the driving thing. Obviously, most people have the discs and tapes, so you can do those quite easily, and you can write to disk, and then you can migrate them off to tape to time. And then you've got the tape, the virtual tapes, the real tapes, and there's been improvements in Db2 utilities that can handle virtual tapes and the stacking on them. And then you've got the fast replication, fast copy, or flash copy, or the EMC time finder, and there is another one that has totally slipped my mind at the moment, and that is well, like to think of them as instant copies. So they take a bitmap flash of the data, and then it will handle anything you need if someone needs to update or anything like that. But once that bitmap is made, then everything's available to run. And then remote site mirroring, hot standbys, cold standbys, etc. So they're the main ones. Most people have the disc. Flash copy is very popular as well. Tapes, virtual tape. Even though that's written to disk, you've still got the sequential processing of that. So these are all things to take into mind. So once you've decided how you do your backup and your what media you're using for your backups, let's have a look at what you can use with them. So image copies. So full and incremental. They have been they've been around since day one almost. And excuse me. And just recently we've had the index copies have started being in. So you now got the copy yes indicator for indexes. Not widely used for some reason, but they are becoming more popular, especially for large indexes, so that you don't have to spend the time rebuilding those image copies. And how often do you need to take an image copy? That's going to depend on your application. If it only gets updated on a Saturday, there's no point in image copying every night. As long as you're in sync with your logs. So if you only keep 2 weeks worth of logs and you're only image copying once a month, then you're going to hit problems eventually. So So when you're setting all the backup methods, etc., you've got to speak to application people, your application DBAs, application people, depending on how you're set up, just to know what the application looks like and how you're going to drive it. What RI is there? How are you going to back up things together as a group or not? So recently we've had the system level backup. So that's the ability to back up the whole system with one command. There's the need to split into
Tom,
two. Yeah,
I've got to ask you,
go
uh,
on.
do you know, is system level backup used greatly or only by sort of niche areas or customers? It's something that I think we've looked at for SAP, but I just wonder whether it is a bit of a niche product or whether it's really used quite a
The
lot.
the the place I've seen it used most, and you said it yourself, SAP, right? And any application like that, so SAP, I think PeopleSoft has moved off Db2, but for those large applications where it's easier to do do it all in one go. Now, Flash Copy tends to be the more used one if they're looking for speed. Um, so that's the halfway house between the system level backup because you don't have to do all the jiggling around. Um, the ability to create an image copy from a system level backup is a useful thing. So you could use that, but that's not in the base utilities. So again, that's something that is used. I've seen it. I don't know why it's not so well used. I think it's a really good idea because you can take copies several times during the day. So if you've got an RTO that is a recovery time objective that is short, then you're probably going to need to take far more copies. The system level backup is a good way of doing it. That's my viewpoint. But you've also got to need the backup DASD for it, and then if you're keeping more than 1 or 2, 3 copies, you're going to need DASD or dump it off to tape. If you put it off to tape, then you've got to recover it, take it back from tape to do it. So I think it's a great thing. I think it's a really good way of doing it. But it's not massively used. I think it should be considered as that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you,
But
Tom.
SAP is where I've seen it mostly used. Massive SAP shops.
Mm, yeah.
So yeah, I've already said, I think it's a really great thing. But also, when you're going to look at recoveries, you've also got to back up things like the DDL, because if you drop something, then you're going to need to see what the object was like. So again, you need some way, whether that is something like Irwin. I nearly said something that really aged me then, but Irwin, or keeping copies of the Db2 catalog somewhere and using a tool to generate out of there. So there are things to do, but you remember when you drop something, it comes out of the catalog. But if you've got a copy of that catalog, you should be able to regenerate from there. So you need some way of keeping a copy of that schema. And Db2 has been enhanced over time with all these real-time statistics to help you determine when you're needed, when things are needed. So top of my head, yeah, well, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I can think of the reorg ones, but I can't think of the comp ones. But there are fields in there that have just recently been enhanced with Db2.13 to allow you to see what's been changed, what's been updated, and whether you can use that to determine what you need. And you got good old DSN ACOX, which will tell you masses of things, inserts since last copy, deletes, updates, changes, etc. And you can use those to drive that through. And that comes with Db2 itself. So you can see when we talk about backups, there's a lot more to consider. It depends on the type of recovery you're planning for. You should plan for all types of recovery, but if you're just looking to recover an application data, then image copies, that's fine. Do I copy the indexes? Do I do this? But if you're looking at drop recovery, then you obviously have to look at the schemas, and then when you start looking at that, then do I need to get the OBID IDs? You can get them in a roundabout way, but you need to start thinking. So when you start looking at some tips for utilities, so as excuse me, as I mentioned earlier, copy indexes are not used. But if it's a critical part of the application, then you really need it. And so why would you not copy it? That could save you a lot of rebuild time. Another thing is if the index is it rarely being updated, that might mean copy index. Yeah, that you won't have to any log applies or anything else like that. Now the disadvantage is the increase in syslog range X and syscopy, according to that's a small thing depending on how many indexes that you're going to start copying, and then you can use RTS as the same, and you can base it on sizes, you can base it on update activities, etc. So that's the one thing, and that's the one that surprised me most about not being used, large copy indexes. Flash copy now.
Just
Yep.
sorry to interrupt, Tom. There's a question from CJ. Can you elaborate on strategies for doing image copies on indexes in parallel with table space or any other way?
So I would, if I've got a critical table and I've got large indexes on those, so I can get the data back. Fine. So let's say it takes me half an hour to get the data back. Then I've got to run rebuild indexes. So that is going to be time consuming. I've got 4, 5, 6 indexes. That's I can either do it all in one big job. Have I got the DAS, etc. to do it all in one big job? Do I need to split it out? So I personal point of view, I think that you should copy those indexes to save all that processing time, CPU time, etc. Copy the data and the indexes together, maybe even in the same list def, and then recover them all to the point in time, and they should all come back to the same point. So therefore, the time to recover is the time to lay the data down, not the time to lay the data down and to then build an index. And with flash copy, if you flash copy the indexes at the same time as well, that's considered a referential. I can't remember the right a consistent group. So therefore, everything is at the same point in time. So in the recovery pointer there, Db2 knows that's a good place to go. So it knows that it doesn't have to do any rebuilds, etc. So that's my view on it. There are lots more considerations to do for copying indexes. That if you do have to take drives, DASD space for the copies, etc. And it is I wouldn't copy yes everything. I would copy the critical stuff to make sure that you've got the shortest recovery time, because bosses tend not to care too much about how long a copy will take, unless you're doing shell level none. But yeah, if they don't tend to care too much about how long the copy is taking. They'll care if the recovery is taking a long time. So and so from the copy, the use of flash copies. So that's the produced transaction consistent image copies from share level change copies. So that's the ability to have a look at the source and the targets. We cover this in a little bit different. So when you go to read an object or recover, then it will go and have a look at either the target or the source first, and then see if it's been updated, depending on which way you're doing things. And we'll see that a bit later. That is a harder, that's a more expensive way of doing things, but it is possible to do it in that way. But the great use, as soon as you put in the flash copy, image copy, it synchronizes bitmaps, and then it will then start copying the data. And if somebody wants to update the data, once that bitmap is complete, then it will be allowed to do it on the source. But first, Flash Copy will copy what was there originally, mark that it's copied that track, and that allow the update to take place. So you're not stopping anything. And if the data's already been copied, then the update's done. So I think that's another great way of doing things and speed things up. Right, option event. I'm trying very hard to remember why we wrote this. The last thing, so the option event item error parameter of copy puts the object into UTRW only for the duration of the copy of just the object. So the object being done will be put into UTRW just for that object, not for the whole list. If you're using Flash Copy, all the objects in the list are put into UTRW at the same time until the FCs are complete. So the theory with that being the Flash Copy is only unavailable for that short period of bitmap. I'm sure bitmap isn't the right word with our terminology, but just while it establishes that consistent point, and then it's released from it. So that should be a very short period of time. So on to recover. So recovery is always complex. There is always extra bits to do. There are bits to be missed. There is bits. And when you think it's done, you find something else has got a check pending or something. And the thing there, the top line is the most important thing. You don't do it every day. So practice. I know customers who do a DR test and they have the system available for another day or so. They go in there and run recovers just to make sure that their practice and what they're thinking is correct. But recovers are never at a convenient time, and you always tend to have management overlooking your shoulder. And I've had one customer who, big system, it was in the log applied, the subsystem was starting up again after failure, and recovery running, and the management thought this is taking too long. So they forced the DBA to cancel the restart. And what happens? It has to back out all the restart it had already done up to that point. And then the manager says, resubmit it. So they do. So now you've got even more to do. So it is something that is always done, always at a critical time. So you just got to be able to manage that. And you need to know why you're recovering, what you're recovering. So why are you recovering it? Dropped object. I used to work for Texco, and DBA there spent 18 months building a new financial table in production, or in test, copied it into production, and then dropped the production one again. And yeah, all hell broke loose at that point. So easily fixed because he still has the test one, but yeah, it's very, very easy to do. So, and the failure you have will affect what your recovery method is. So a dropped object, that's fairly simple as long as you've done you've gathered all the information. That's just recreate the objects, binds, etc. Put the data back if you've got it all. Application errors, that's a little bit harder to work out. Do you go through the log? Do you work out what's changed? Do you do a point in time recovery if you can identify where everything is and it's a consistent point? So again, it's fairly extensive, what you need to know and what to do in the event of each of those. So I would expect a recovery scenario in every DBA's notebook to say, right, a dropped object, this is what we need, this is what we should do, this is the process we would use. If we've got an application error, right, okay, first thing I would do, stop the application if they haven't already, find out when it was first done, can I recover there to that point? If not, what's the implication from that. So you need to keep going. And I'm doing all this without mentioning any tools, by the way. So yeah. And of course, you need to know from an application point of view, if it's Db2 RI, it's fine. Right, you can follow that. It's not fine. So but you can see where that's going. Application RI, you need to work out, right? Okay, if it updates table A and then table B, and then this fires up a trigger or something over to this other one. So you're going to have to need some application understanding. And as we know, there's less and less DBAs. It's required to do more and more. So the time to do this isn't always available. So which is why I go back to the first point, you don't do it every day. So practice. So there are tools inside Db2 utilities available that can help you recover the objects. And to use those at the right time and in the best way, you need DBA experience, etc., to execute the steps in the right orders. You're going to have pressure from management on there, and it's always challenging, even for the most experienced of DBAs. So, but if you practiced it, you can tell around your management, last time we did this, and give them a nice warm feeling. So what can you, the tools that we've got available, we've obviously got Recover, we've got a check to sort out your RI, DSM1 copy, you can use that to lay an image copy down. Said you need to know the OBIDs, but you just keep running it and it keeps very nicely telling you the OBIDs. Why it didn't tell you all in one go, but you can get there. DSN log P, let's print off the log, see what's changed, and then see whether I can work out how to undo what's been done. But again, practice, and it does get easier. So hints and tips. The first one is obvious. What objects are affected? So you can follow the Db2 replication, RI, and then the application one you're obviously going to need to build up. So I hate to say this, but good documentation, right? So hopefully you'll have that, and you can refer to that. I mean, if there's only one table being dropped and you've got a point in time and you know you can get back to that and everything else will be fine, that's great. You've just got the one object, but you might need to span out. And once you've determined what's going on and what you need to recover, you then need to decide which is better. So you've got the point in time recovery of an application or an object, which is the standard recovery. That's probably the one most people would go to. But it's all going to depend on if it was an application error. It's been 3 days since the error. Have I got a point in time to go to? Can I roll forward? Can I roll back, etc.? And that brings into the transaction recovery. I've got a rogue transaction. How am I going to do that? Again, that's a similar idea as to where in the log am I going to? What can I replay? Recovery of a dropped object. There's many ways of doing this, and there's a lot more being stored inside the Db2 log as well to allow that recovery. Redirected recovery, Db2 version 12, I think. I'm pretty sure it's 12. The ability to recover using recover utility to a different object in the same subsystem. So you can, if you want to see what the data was, you can recover from an image copy to another tables in the same subsystem, and you can run queries against that and see what's happening. And then you've got the system level recovery, which we'll look at then. So everyone has a different method. I mean, redirected recovery, that's there for you to recover it to somewhere else so you can see what needs recovery. That's not the end of the recovery. That's just a point in it. So considerations, right? So prioritize objects, fairly simple, but yeah, if you've got to do the first ones first, do them, right? Make them #1 priority, get those going straight away. If they were the most critical application objects first, in my book, I'd probably copy yes, if for the large tables there. So I'll get there, and that gets something up and running. It could be that they get it up and running, and people can start seeing to make sure that the recovery is to where they want it to be. So that starts things off. And obviously, you would do table space, then indexes, table spaces, then indexes to prioritize in that priority list. You wouldn't leave all the indexes to the end. Just fast log apply. So as part of the Db2, so the Db2, but under John Campbell and lately Anthony, right? They recommend 20 to 30 objects per list. So the fast log apply is a portion of memory that's, I think it's in 10 megs slots. You probably know better than me because I'm not a sysprod, but that is allocated to help speed through recoveries. And they're saying that the maximum of 51 recovery jobs per member in a data sharing environment. So if you've got 99 objects, split them across 2, 3, spread them across the members. So that's just something that they've put together. So to try and keep the list down 20 or 30 objects. You might need to go over if you've got all related stuff. So that's something. And then inside the IBM Recover, you've got a couple of options. Verify set. So that's going to verify that all your related objects are there together. For a point-in-time recovery, you should really set the whole RI set in the same recover state. That helps with check pending, etc. And put base and auxiliary objects in the same one as well. Excuse me. And then scope updated. So that tells the recovery utility. So only recover those objects that have changed. That's great. That makes it life a lot easier. It means that do you have to worry about what objects have changed if you use scope updated? Here's one group. These 10 haven't, so the recovery utility will miss them out and only do the ones that are not needed. So again, so some ideas there. So enforce no to avoid checkpoint and advisory checkpoints. So if you're doing sorry. That the using enforce no will stop the objects going to check pending and advisory check pending when a complete set is not specified in the same recovery point. So and sorry, so the back out option that came in version 11 or 12, I can't remember. So fast recover to point in time through the back out option. So that maybe depending on how much work has been done, then it may be faster to use recovery using the backup option. So instead of using the image copy, they're going to, and the log to roll forward, takes the log and rolls backwards, and it should hopefully be quicker. If you are specifying backout yes, then the recovery point must be within the most recent Db2 system checkpoints that are recorded in the BSDS for each member. Otherwise, the recovery won't run. So again, you just need to be aware of that.
Just a point on the chat, Tom. Duran says scope updated is the default. So in a mixed list, the ones not updated will not be recovered, which sounds like a good plan.
Yes. So have I got that my English the wrong way around? Will only recover the objects that have been changed? Yeah.
Yeah, you've got it
Yeah.
right
Right.
there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I missed out the word default. I've just seen it there. But yeah, why wouldn't you? I think that's it's see, the problem is people set recovery scripts, recovery processes 5 versions ago, 4 versions ago, and don't go back and check it. And it's something I think should be visited at least once every version. Yeah, you could argue once every function level, but I think that's going a little bit too far. But yeah, maybe function level 500 and 505, 506, depending on how long and whether there's anything in the area that we're looking at. So again, it is something that it's not something you just set and then forget about and then dig it out of the cupboard, dust it down when you need it, and hope it works. This I don't like this slide, but I thought I'd leave it in there. Another question you must be able to answer is, are you meeting your recovery time objectives? So an RTO is the maximum amount of time that your business can be down for after a failure. This is obviously what management care about, very important to them, because every minute they're down, they're losing money. So, so the steps you need to work out. You've got to determine the scope of the objects. You've got to determine the strategy. You've got to generate the jobs. What's the best way to run the jobs, etc., etc. And then, as you're going up this list into the red area, management turn up. So yeah, it's just it's not just the time to recover, not how long the times the jobs run. It is the time that you need to think about the jobs, what needs to be done, and the best way to do it, and then you can execute them. So take that into consideration when you're thinking about your RTO. Is that you've got to start thinking about how to do things. The reason I don't like this slide, by the way, is I'm not 100% convinced that they're in the right order. Red, greens, all of that. It all makes sense as long as you read from bottom up, but I tend to read the other way around. Okay, so let's have a look at the different types of recovery options. So let's start with point in time recovery. What is the best point in time to be used for a good recovery? So that's really only going to be down to people who know the application, because they're going to be able to turn around and say, oh, well, yeah, everything's read only at 6 o'clock in the evening, or there's a gap between online and batch, this sort of thing. So they may be able to help that. So they may be able to get a point of time. I know several sites that take rest points before the batch starts, just so they know that there was a quiet point at that time. I mean, you can also trail through the logs, find quiet times, etc. So once you've answered that, what is the recovery point? Then they need to know all the dependent objects which will then need to be recovered. So what about the RI, the auxiliaries, etc. So then you need to find that, and then what's available to me to recover from? Yeah. Have I missed image copying something for the last 4 weeks and I'm now totally shot myself in the foot? Of course not. But yeah, you need to know that I recover this one every week, this one every day. I've got all the logs available, what's on DASD, what's not, etc. So yeah, and then you've also got to think about, is it best to back out? Is it better to run a 2 copy because I know there's been no updates, or I can do a 2 copy and I can rerun my batch because my application may have failed. I need to make a program change. Well, why are you making that program change? Shall I take it back to the last consistent points? And then we can run the batch forward again. So and the one there that not all objects may potentially be recovered using the same method. You might do backup for some, roll forward for others, 2 copies for another. So one size does not always fit all. So have a look if you've got one that you can do a 2 copy with, great, and then you run that forward. So the batch has been run for 10 hours. It may not be possible, but so there's a lot of things to consider. So once you've answered all those questions, and this is why I say practice, document what you're doing, then you can start looking at creating some JCL. Where am I going to put? Where am I going to? Where's my image copies coming from? Is it coming from tape? Is it coming from DASD? Do I want to do some recalling in advance so that the JCL goes forward? Are they stacked on virtual tapes? Do I need to have my JCL recognize that and do things in the right order? So there's a lot to do there. And finally, you can submit it and you can cross your fingers that you've got everything above it all correct. And you can look at the execution of the jobs and tell management to get off your back. So from a point in time recovery, there's quite a lot to do that, and it is quite easy to generate point in time recovery. So this is an example from a customer, a big customer, not very experienced. So twice a year they have a release process, and they delete some data from some application tables. Just because it's like a bank holiday or something, and they just don't. So this is what they run. So they get the current timestamp, so they know when this job was run. They delete from the table where contract ID is one of these ones that they've been using, and the contract date is between them. So they run that, and it takes a little while, and they're trying to work out why. And as soon as that's finished, everything starts failing. Several jobs, and they've spent ages to look at this, trying to think, well, what have I done? What's causing all these problems? And everyone's running around everywhere. So it took them a while, but they looked at the output, the result from the output, so like spoofy. And this is what they saw once they put into browse. So looking in edit, you couldn't see it, but in browse, you can see that semicolon in line 70. So what was actually wrong was just a delete from contract table. So very easy to generate the need for a recover. You never want to do it deliberately, but the accidents do happen. So, and to make matters worse, this contract table cascade delete. So they were in trouble. So how did they correct it? Well, they did a bunch of time recovery, and then they used the log up to the point that they ran that spoofing. Because they were doing a rollout of a release, there was nothing else going on. So they were quite fortunate in that they didn't have anything to worry about. So they had to recover this and the RI set. So it just shows you how easy it is. I've given an example I've had, and I've done some deletes that have been, I don't like to admit those. So again, very easy, and that's generally the recovery done. Now, dropped object recovery. So the accidentally dropped ones. So you've got the production one, which is the nightmare. Test ones you can normally get away with, and sad to say, it's normally a DBA that does it. So it's a sad thing about life. And you can the IBM brought in the sort of strict on drop, which is great. That will stop you doing it accidentally. You can still do it accidentally, but it stops you doing that. But as we all know, once you drop an object, recovery is of no use. So syscopy entries are gone. and all related objects are gone. As you can see on this slide, you can see depending on where you drop. So if you drop the table space, you're going to get rid of syscopy entries. You're going to get rid of the table, which is going to get rid of the triggers, which is going to get rid of aliases index, blah blah blah. Right? And then all the security is cascaded down. It'll invalidate packages, plans, etc. So depending on where you drop things, it can have a massive cascade on it. So what do you do in that situation? So you need to find the DDL. Have you got it? Right. Okay. I know sites that have it. I know sites that don't have it. They rely on their catalog to do it, which is fair enough, as long as you keep copies of that catalog so you can go back to it. And then you're also going to need DDL for dependent objects that got dropped. So again, you're going to need that. So the steps you'd have to go through is to find that DDL, and you're going to find the most
Tom,
current. Yep.
I, I remember reading somewhere that the DDL, the table, when you drop it, is
Yep.
saved on the log. But I
It is
guess
now.
if you've got
Yeah.
dependent tables, that doesn't happen. Well, no, yeah, it gets
It
complicated.
it should do. It should be everything you need. That's a good question. I think that's one to ask our friend Karen. I will find out. Store DDL for RI dropped objects.
I think
Yeah,
Diran believes it's definitely on the log.
yeah, I think it's on the log as well, but I'm not going to swear on it because
Yeah,
um,
we don't want anybody to go away and expect it's all on the log and find it's not. So that we'll check
yeah,
it out.
I will check that one out.
Thanks, Tom.
So, right, so you need to find the current image copy to the most current image copy to restore the data, assuming that's where you can take it, and that data has to match the DDL. So they need to be current. Then you need to determine the OBIDs, DBIDs, and PSIDs as well. So you need those objects because they needs to be input to DSM1 copy. If you don't know them, put rubbish in there, and the first execution will say, "Oh, I haven't found a match for this DB ID." So you find that, then you run it again. I haven't found a match for this TSID, whatever it is, and then you just keep running it, and it'll tell you everything that's in there. So then you run DSM1 copy, doing all the translates for you, and that's your data back. You've got to do the indexes, rebuild those, etc. Then you've got to rebind any plans packages, that were made invalid because of the drop. Then you've got to regrant any privileges that would have been lost after the drop, and then hopefully that'll be the end of it, unless there's RI in there, in which case you're going to need to go and have a look around and see whether you need to run checks. Are you 100% confident that when you dropped that, everything was okay? You could run I hate saying this, force, start access force, which I really wouldn't. But yeah, you're going to you may have some RI to check out as well and do something with. So again, it's not easy to do. So a little bit more detail, not much more. So you're going to determine the OBID and the internal identifiers. You're going to find an image copy. You could unload and load, and I was going to check this out to make sure I was right here. You can unload from an image copy if you've got the DDL for the object that matches the image copy. I'm trying this for a while. So if you've got the image copy and you've got the DDL, you could do an unload, and then you could load it into the new table space. Roll forward. It's hard. I want to put impossible, but it's not impossible. It's hard to do. You can go through, look through the logs, work out what's changed. You could write bits of SQL to do that. So again, that's hard. And the RI, as we say, you either restore everything where it should be, at a convenient point at the same point in time, or you're going to have to do something to check all the RI. So not an easy way of doing it, but that was probably one of the easy ones. Transaction recovery, that is getting rid of rogue transactions. Now, someone's putting a here this change all the stores to XYZ, and they didn't mean all of them, they meant some of them. All that transaction recovery that we had earlier, when that failure I showed you earlier, there was a point in time, you could be recovering something a lot like that. But with a transaction recovery, the problem may not surface immediately. It might then do an update, raise a price of something, that then cascades through to warehousing and invoicing, etc. And you found that that's wrong, and you've got to back it out, and then you've got to work out where everything else is going. So it depends how quickly you find when the corruption occurred. So again, examples: inadvertent delete customer production data, cascade deletes has magnified the problem. And then they've received an incorrect file from an external source. I've seen that quite a few times coming through. And they've modified incorrect information. And people have been sent stuff that they really shouldn't have or shouldn't see because they've put the address wrong, for example. So again, there's lots of reasons why you would want to. And a use case is an application that corrupted data during the batch window, spotted by auditors. So it's not happened immediately. So they've gone back auditing it, and now they've found there's some mistakes. So how do you back out the changes from that to only affect those two tables? Well, it's not easy without tooling, and most of the big vendors do tooling. Some of the small ones do as well. And what it's going to do, if you haven't got that sort of thing, you've got to start looking through the logs time and time again to just keep going. This has changed. What's gone on from there? And you just need to walk through the logs, and then work out what you need to undo, and then carry on again. So let's have a look at one way of doing it. So this is one I hinted at earlier. You could recover the data to a different Db2 table. So we're doing redirected recovery here, and you could have it analyzed, corrected. So you compare A against B, and you work out what's changed, and then you can start having a look to see what you need to do to change it back again. So, and the longer it takes you to do this, the more complex it gets because the data is moving on. It's a moving target. The DBA could, or the application person, write some SQL that copies the data back. So they've spotted what needs to be copied back. So they're going to just copy that data back. So they've manually updated what's in Db2, the table B in this case, and now they're going to copy it over the top of table A. Again, it's application, not knowledge. It's knowing what's changed and what can be changed back. Excuse me. So again, the steps of doing that, you're going to create the unload, create a new table, load data. The first few steps, redirected recovery. Okay, so then you've got to get your application programmers on a call, sit around the table, whatever, and you're going to have to look at the data and work out what's to be transferred back. And then you've got you just write an insert. Once you've updated the B table, then you're just going to write an insert. And then this is assuming that there is everything was a delete. So okay, if there's a bad insert, you've got to get rid of stuff on A, so you're going to have to look both ways. If it's a bad update, then you're going to have to things start to get more complicated. You're going to work out what's come back, and has there been anything to follow, any updates following on from that? So again, it makes makes things harder and harder each step, and that's subsequent transactions updating the same rows. So if you might be looking back, 4, 5, 6 transactions. Again, it's hard to know, but you can see the complexity. So what can you use? You could use report recovery, which will tell you what's linked how with it. So you got DSM1 log P, which you can use. So I know the transaction ran around this time. You can then start zooming in on the transactions. You know what auth ID did it, what the units of work were, etc. So you can then start looking in. DSM1 print, you can now print the you can now print the rows and have a look at them, and then if compression is turned on, then it may be almost impossible to reconstruct the row images because the compression will be in there and you don't know what the compression dictionary was. So again, it's hard work. So an example of an insert, you see the highlighted side. So this is just someone doing an insert to take. See the actions and insert. The subtype is an insert into a data page, and we can see the data being inserted. So again, you can quite easily see there and from that you can start. You could identify the keys and then delete from it. If you had an update, we're going to set column 3, which is this A. And we're going to set it to std01. So you got before and after. And so here's the update. So the update is only logged from the first point of change. So we can see std01 there. So again, it's just getting more and more complex each time. So not an easy thing to transaction recovery, not an easy thing to undertake. So considerations. So the first 3, like unload, load, and create the table. Unload, create table structure, load, redirect recovery. Actually, yes, you could, yeah. And then you get the application people there, because they should know the data and what happens during the life cycle of that data. So you're all going to have to work together. Hard work. Now, redirected recovery. I like redirected recovery. So that was brought into the recovery utility, and it uses existing resources to create you a copy of a recovered copy somewhere else. Okay, so it recovers to a point in time or to the current state. Like all good things in Db2 nowadays, universal table spaces. So if you're not there yet, that's another reason to get to that. And it's been in Db2 12 for ages. So why have it? So you can test your recoverability. Clearly, have you got everything in production? It's non-disruptive to the objects that are already existing. You can get recovery times. You can have a good estimate of how long it takes to do things. I love the last bit, the syntax, not the last bit, on the top right. Syntax avoids risky accidental destruction, and I think we'll see that in a moment. So they've actually thought about it and where people could slip up. So flexible support to point in time. So if your auditors need to go back and check to see what happened on a certain day, so as long as you've got log points, etc., then you can do that. And quality, yeah, okay. It works very well. Does exactly what it says in the tin, and it's been received well. It has to stay within the same Db2 member, so that's the only restriction on it, apart from the UTS. So, and it's a good design. So why would you want to test and validate recovery procedures? Perfect. won't affect production. You might have some you're going to need some resources to lay down the image copy, etc. But it's fine. And you can work out the components of recovery time, that number of objects, size of the objects, image copy restored, log applies. So you can see how long. So if an image copy was 5 hours ago, and that means the log apply is going to take you 10 hours because it's a busy table, and your RTO is 5 hours, then you're obviously going to have to do more image copies to make sure that you can do the image copy and the log apply inside that RTO. So it's a good way of validating it, as I said earlier. I've just seen the time. And as I said earlier, some people use their DR system to keep code and to try their recoveries, but you can do this at any point. So use cases, assess current RTO, which we just talked about, recover production data without impacting forensic analysis. You could generate the test data and then unload from there without affecting production. So it's all about not affecting production and having a nice, easy way of analyzing the data. Limitations, okay. So target objects must reside in the same Db2 or data sharing. Universal table spaces only. Everything's for universal table spaces now. So, and then there are a few small things that aren't used. And I said the syntax, I thought about this very well. Recover table space from and then to, so you don't do recover table space from production, you do recover table space test from production. So there's no accidentally recovering. So that's well thought out. When I heard about this, I was thinking, yeah, how long before the first PMR comes up? But I think I thought that one out very well. And flash copy, for those who don't know, flash copy, something I didn't know until recently, so got into this. So it creates an instant copy of a volume or a data set at a particular point in time. So time zero is how I've seen it. Instantaneous is another one. So what it means is you can copy huge amounts of data at the density level. It's it's running on the storage subsystem, so lower CPU, lower I/O, faster backups, faster recovery, and Db2 utilities and vendor tools make use of it. So several options: volume and dataset level copy. So you can do a dataset level flash copy, image copy. So you could have a list def, and then you could do the flash copy, or you can do it at a volume level. System level backup uses obviously the volume level. You can also do incremental flash copies, a bit like Db2 does in incrementals. So that keeps track of what's changed. There's a few overheads with that, and we'll have a look at space efficient and remote. So fast reverse restore. So this is the option to restore a flash copy source from its target without having to wait for the completion of the background copy. So it sounds complex, and it is a bit. So you can start restoring before it's copied, because the flash copy knows what it's copied and what it hasn't copied. So it'll just copy back what the tracks that it's already copied. That makes sense. I knew I'd get that. So as an update comes in, it will take a copy of the before image. So it has all the before images, and it will just lay them back for full volumes. So let's see. I think it's easier if I show. I think this is easier. So if you do the volume level, you can tell that this is Bob's. So source and target volumes, the relationship is established. Okay. Then the track bitmap is created. And then as soon as that bitmap is created, your source is available, and that takes seconds. It's very, very, very quick. And then in the background, tracks are copied from the source to target, and the bitmap is updated to say, I've copied this, I've copied this. So that's the basics of it. So if someone wants to read from the source, so it goes directly to the source. It's been copied. That doesn't matter. He's going from, that could be an updated page, it could be a non-updated page. They don't care because it's still going. If someone wants to write to it. So when it writes to the source, before it does that, then Flash Copy will check to see whether that copy has been taken, whether that bitmap has been copied, that bit of data. If it hasn't, it will initiate a copy. Then it will let the update will work. If it's already been copied, the write just goes ahead. Right, target. So you want to IO. So if you want to read from the target, so if it hasn't been copied, you get directed to the source to read it. If it has been copied, then you just take it from the target. If you're doing write to target, it will do it immediately if it's all copied. If it's not already copied, it will force the copy, and then it will do the update. So again, it's all tracking what's changed and what's not, and making sure it's got a good copy of the data. Okay, so Flash Copy target can be immediately used. Background copy not complete, then it just does the reverse restore. If it has completed, then Flash Copy will just take the target over the source. The copy to tape process can happen at any time. So anytime, as soon as a Flash Copy is if it's finished, all the IO will be done straight off the target. If the background copy is not complete, there might be a small performance problem while it goes and gets the data from the source. So best to let it finish if you can. Yeah, as it says there, wait for the background copy before archiving to tape. And the background copy will run at a lower priority, so it's not stealing resources. Now, I've noticed it's past 4, Colin. Is there another session after this, or shall I carry on?
No, it's just a coffee break until 4:30. So yeah, if people are happy for Tom to carry on, then
I haven't got much actually. I've only got about 5 slides, and to say these are Bob's. He didn't make it. So yeah,
I'd say carry on, Tom, and yeah, go from there.
okay. So performance implications. Make sure the background copy is at a low priority, so it doesn't impact on production. So therefore, all those writes and reads, etc., all get in first, and then wait for the backup to finish. Okay, full background copy. So the options. The full background copy, which is the default for all the major ones. Right, all tracks are copied, available for volume and dataset level Flash copies. And as soon as that source target relationship ends, so as soon as that is all copied, that bitmap is deleted. So we don't keep it, no point. And how long does this take? So as I say, as soon as the bitmap is made available, then that's fine. That's everything's available on the source, and then the background copy starts working. So how long will it take? Right, amount of data, obviously. How many background copy processes are running? Number of processors in the storage system, number of IO. So again, it's the general thing, but notice it's not on CPU. It's right. This is the one where I got confused from here on in. So wish me luck. So the flash copy option. So no copy. Okay. So that suppresses the background copy. So we'll only copy source tracks before they're updated first time after flash copy. So you do the flash copy, and then as they're updating, you said no copy. So as they're updating, it's just taking the copies then. So you've already done one. So that no copy will sit there forever until you turn around and say, I don't want it. What's it good for? You don't need the background copy. That's not good. What it's doing is as the writes happen, it's just to be copied across. Target volume's unusable when relationship is withdrawn. There are times you can keep bit copies around, etc. Bitmaps around actually, but most time you just assume it's not available. And typical usage backup dumped immediately to tape, so it's just a transient copy. It's just sitting there waiting, and then as soon as you're at the right point, you just dump it off to tape. So it could be 6 in the evening, whatever. Just dump it off to tape, and that's when it'll be broken. Incremental flash copy will only copy tracks that have changed since the last incremental flash copy. I'm just trying to think whether that should say last volume. I think the last incremental flash copy is right. So advantages again are IO, elapsed times down. So excuse me. So the incremental versus the Db2 quite similar in thought. So initial incremental flash copy will, if it's the first time doing the incremental flash copy, then a full copy will be initiated. So it needs that there obviously to start with, and then every time you run it after that, you'll get a delta copy of it. And then the resulting backup is always a full backup, so it's just copy the changes and you back out. And requires one target volume per source volume. Fair enough. And relationship will last until it's explicitly withdrawn. So you stop it. Right. So flash copy versus space efficiency. Right. I really am on new ground here. So so flash copy, you need at least one target per source volume. So there's a one-to-one match. With the space efficient one, you don't need a one-to-one. What you have is a repository, and the changes are stored in there. So there's a lot. You don't need all the volumes available at all the time. So the changes are stored and then can be applied. So that's the space efficient side of it. So what happens with the space efficient volume? So if you go to excuse me, right into the space efficient volume, again we do the copy first, but we're copying into the repository. Now if we're reading from a space efficient target volume, if we want to read an unchanged track, we get pointed to the source. If we want to read a changed track, we go off to the repository. So again, it's a way of saving the amount of volumes that you actually need all the time. So that's well, depending on the application. If every single road changes every single day and on every single volume, that may not save you anything, but it does save a lot of space. So that was that. Any questions that I can't see? I'm sorry for the rush through flash copy, but it's quite a good piece of kit.
I think there's no questions on the chat. Is anybody wanting to unmute to ask any questions?
No.
I think people might be eager to grab a coffee before the
Yeah,
final round of sessions.
But so session feedback, please. I forgot to put 6Q at the top, but there's the QR code. But thank you very much for attending, keeping me company.
Thanks very much, Tom. I know it's you've got out of your sick bed to come here today, so really appreciate it, and you've done a brilliant session. So thanks very much indeed. We owe you one. Yeah, so that's almost the end of the day on the last day, but there's another session coming up at 4:30 which is pagination in DB2 with Emil Cottridge. Hope you'll join us for that. Until then, grab a coffee and get back to it at 4:30. Thanks so much, Tom. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Thanks a lot, everyone.